It's too cold to enjoy the beach along Park Point. But come June, you should be able to enjoy more than just swimming and boating. The City Parks and Recreation Department is conducting a $250,000 renovation to the park on Park Point.
There will be an asphalt path going around the perimeter, which will accommodate walkers, bikers, maybe people roller skating. There will be 2 new picnic shelters coming out here that'll be in place near the entrance so that keep it fairly close to where people got good access to it.
The park already features volleyball courts and softball diamonds, but a new blacktop road has been added and the amount of parking doubled. But the real attraction should be the old bathhouse. The city is remodeling it in the hopes a private concession operator will take it over.
This building has been very minimally used for the last several years. Matter of fact, there was some talk at one point of tearing it down. And it's really a good building, so what we're trying to do is just to get it active again.
In addition, bathrooms inside the old building are being modernized, and it all should be ready in time for the summer recreation season, which runs from mid-June through August. Brian Ziegler, Channel 3 News. The Great Lakes are now at their highest levels ever, and shoreline erosion is causing increasing damage. In addition to erosion, flooding is also a problem. A report by the city of Duluth shows of the 493 homes on Park Point, 269 of them have flooding in their basements. The report also says there isn't a sewer collection system in all of Duluth designed to accommodate the storm water discharge that's present there.
The houses along Park Point are just too low. The basements are at a low level, they're close to lake level, so it doesn't take a great deal of fluctuation of the lake level before those basements are in trouble.
The city has spent $300,000 replacing or upsizing pumping motors inside pump houses on the point. But they're also limited to what can be done, and maintaining present levels of sewer service is difficult.
That's our goal, so that the toilet facilities and you can discharge the dishwasher and so on, just to keep the system functioning. We don't want the people to have to move out of their homes, and at times we're just barely able to achieve that goal.
Some people say that living along Lake Superior is the good life, but its rising water continues to eat away not only at the shoreline, but at people's lives. And city public works engineers say that if the water continues to rise, it could make life here on the point intolerable. With photographer Deborah Lingdahl, Brian Ziegler, Channel 3 News.
Yes, it's circus time in Duluth, not only at the arena, but downtown, too. Activities began with free face painting by the Shrine Clowns. Everyone got into the act, but the circus spirit really took off when Bimbo the Elephant made her grand entrance. It's all part of downtown Duluth Circus Days.
The purpose, obviously, is to promote the circus. And as you can probably know, the circus is our primary fundraising activity of the year. All the money that comes from the circuit goes to support our crippled children's hospitals and burn centers.
The Shrine Clowns were formed in 1966 and have appeared at every Shrine Circus since then. Each year they become more and more active, but the highlight of the year is always the Shrine Circus. The first performance was this afternoon, but there are 6 more ahead this weekend. Whether you're a youngster, an oldster, or somewhere in between, the high wire acts, lions and tigers, the smell of the peanuts and popcorn, or the bright lights and circus music are bound to please. Most importantly, it's all for a good cause, support of the Shrine Children's Hospitals and Burn Centers. Take it from Bimbo. Don't forget, it's circus time.
These Cotton High School students don't want any teachers to be left without jobs after this school year. That's why 100 students walked out of class for the day. Because of budget cuts and declining enrollment, School District 710, which includes 6 high schools between Albrook and Orr, had to lay off 52 teachers, a quarter of the teaching staff.
We're not going to be laying off 52 people. We look at perhaps 16 reductions out of a faculty of about 196.
5 teachers at Cotton were laid off. Teachers who also serve as football, boys and girls basketball and volleyball coaches.
Well, we're doing it because we're losing some very valuable teachers.
It probably won't accomplish a lot, but it shows our teachers that we care about them and that we don't want them to get cut. It is frustrating for an administrator. It is frustrating for a teacher. It's very frustrating for a community. They have a very difficult time trying to understand why some people are cut and why some people aren't. And I guess we all feel very frustrated right now.
Today's protest may not get immediate results, but district administrators say they're going to take this issue before the state legislature and demand some changes be made in seniority and licensure procedures. In Cotton, this is Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News.
You'd have to move back quite a ways when they start coming this way, all right? Now, is there sidewalk? Let's get the way we've got sidewalk. Down here just sitting beside the waterway, what did you see?
A little lady came walking down. She sat on the edge of the water, sat on the edge of the wall with her feet over, and she kind of leaned forward a little bit and just fell in. And then she just started to float down the water. I didn't know what to do. So I just ran over to a phone.
You ran to a phone?
Yeah.
So she was just sitting on the edge and fell in? Was she swimming then when she hit the water?
No, I looked over and she just had her hands above the water.
Here's some for my niece.
You guys are murdered. Hard to keep a straight face. Just like you imagined you knew it was.
I wonder if we should make a little close to the vehicle. We got to.
You guys feel like you're fighting up so bad?
Oh, yeah. That's for me.
All right. Hang on. Fuel oil, high, you guys really got.
Let that keep burning.
Like around a campfire.
Hey, Jim, open the air. Breathe deep, Jimmy. Breathe deep.
Awfully green.
Perfect spot.
Yeah.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
How's that?
Good job.
Good. I I've got more than I need, too. Oh.
Gee! Let's blow off the rest of the day, Kurt.
Yeah.
I haven't done it, I've seen this. There are places that will rotate this around the cart. I can slow that down. Yeah. You could leave it black. No.
You actually
It does, during acquisition it does. I actually have to go through manually and make sure we don't hit anything.
So this is, you're just,
I'm just getting set up.
you need to get down underneath and shoot straight up.
Okay, baby.
Okay.
This is a half a circle takes 10 minutes, a complete takes 20. TR is ready. Set up for 6.
You're going to get all your friends lined up before the TV.
For Michael Brissett, the verdict means a new beginning. A convicted criminal most of his life, Brissett had been on parole when he was arrested, but the judge overlooked the past after hearing family, friends, and Brissett himself say he's a changed man, a Christian, off liquor, and enrolled in college.
If I'm not sent to prison, I could serve the community. As I stated, I could go to these alcohol programs and tell the story of my life. Try to express to these young people, or even older people, how it is to sit in that prison cell.
The judge sentenced Brissett to 9 months in jail and 3 years probation. He faced up to 12 years in prison. Brissett's backers are happy with his sentence, but claim Brissett is not guilty. Instead, a victim of racism and perjured testimony.
And that the officers were indeed trying to cover themselves for what might have been illegal hunting on their part by fabricating a story about Michael.
As far as I know, those charges are totally unfounded.
The sheriff promises to investigate any legitimate complaints against his department. Meanwhile, Brissett's backers haven't decided yet whether to appeal the guilty verdict. Brissett is expected to serve the rest of his sentence here at the Ashland County Jail. After that, he hopes to begin his life anew at 41 years of age. In Ashland, Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
It may have been raining and cold today, but that made conditions just right for shoveling buffalo chips. Today was the 3rd annual buffalo chip sale to raise money for the Duluth Zoo.
Oh, I think just to have fun. I think that's more than anything, but we really like making the money, and we like to make the zoo yard clean.
State and city officials were on hand to do the shoveling, and most agreed it was second nature for them.
I just think of all the speeches I've heard, and it becomes very easy. And I particularly trying to compare Minnesota chips with Wisconsin chips, and by far they offer far more chips than Wisconsin does. They're winning the war.
When we were kids during World War II, we used to have the victory gardens, and so my job was to put the manure in the garden and mix it up with the pitchfork, so I'm an expert.
They handed me this thing and they just said, do what comes natural, so I just started shoveling it.
You just kind of do what comes naturally. I just enjoy it. You know, we do a lot of this on the air from time to time. We might as well come out and, you know, really do it the right way.
The zoo docents say they hope to sell about 1,000 bags this year at $1 a piece. The buffalo chips are used mostly for vegetable and flower gardens. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News. The Duluth accordionaires have traveled all over the world to provide their special type of entertainment, but never before has the group left at such a volatile time. Group members don't seem overly concerned, however, mainly because their trip is to Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii, areas they feel are far enough away from the Libyan conflict.
There's always apprehension about going overseas, but we're going to the other side of the globe. I don't really see any problem.
I guess Australia's a pretty neutral country. It'd be safe, just as much safe over there.
I'm not really worried about it. It's there. I'm concerned about it. We have taken some precaution.
Precautions include taking the USA emblem off their accordionaires' jackets and being told not to talk politics with foreigners.
The main thing, I guess, is to not agitate anybody.
American kids really draw a crowd, and to perform like this, I think sort of puts a peace of mind on those people too, that we're not sometimes as hostile as they think we are.
This is the accordionaires' 10th foreign mission. They'll be back in Duluth May 11th. Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News. Just a little more planting, a little more painting, and a few more nails, and in less than 2 months, Iron World USA will open its doors. And officials are hoping when that time comes, tourists will visit from all over.
We must have first-class and quality facilities in northeastern Minnesota that will act as tourism anchors to attract tourists from not the Iron Range, but from Duluth and Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all over the country.
And Director Bob Scott is gearing up for the influx of tourists.
Ready to embark on a great new venture, and we are going to be opening up our doors on the last weekend in June, 26th, 27th, and 28th of June for the International Polka Fest.
But the grand opening will actually be July 3rd through the 6th, and during that time, top entertainers like Mickey Gilley and the Minnesota Orchestra will perform here at the new amphitheater.
The outdoor amphitheater will seat about 1,600 people, and about 15 people will be able to sit on the grassy knolls. And tonight at 10, I'll tell you more about the stars that'll be performing here. In Hibbing, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
Newly announced gubernatorial candidate David Jennings admits it'll be tough to beat Rudy Perpich on the governor's home turf. But he thinks there's enough people in northeastern Minnesota that are tired of high taxes and a lack of jobs that may vote Jennings into office.
In the last election, he ran and promised a renaissance on the range and a rebuilding of northeastern Minnesota's economy. I doubt that he can successfully make the argument in this campaign that he's accomplished that.
Jennings said at a news conference in Duluth today that small businesses are creating the bulk of new jobs. The only difference is that the jobs aren't being created in Minnesota. He blames state government for that and adds that we must be competitive on the world market as well.
It's no longer a day and age when a business in Duluth has to compete with a business in Cloquet or a business even for that matter in Wisconsin. Businesses in Duluth today or in any part of Minnesota today have to be competitive with businesses in Taipei, in Tokyo, in Argentina, in Europe. It's a world marketplace, and Minnesota has gotten non-competitive.
Jennings says his main goal will be to cut taxes and reduce government spending. Brian Ziegler, Channel 3 News.
Minnesota's Board on Aging has been holding hearings like this one across the state, and officials say lawmakers will use the testimony presented and the board's recommendations to determine how senior citizens are treated by the state of Minnesota.
Just get a different flavor for what the issues are and how the programs that we believe are good may be not working or may need some improvement.
Itasca County is billing itself as an ideal retirement community. Combine that with an ever-growing elderly population, and a real concern for elderly issues becomes evident.
Well, I think a lot of them's going to be put out in the street. They won't have no place to be. And I'd hate like heck to be in that position myself. And I'm getting up there in that age too. And so is my husband. And if we should happen to have to lose our home, where would we be?
Itasca County has a wide array of programs and services in place, but to provide access to people is going to be the challenge.
Tomorrow morning, the board will hear more testimony at Duluth's Cathedral High School, and officials say showing up at that hearing can be one way to affect the future of the state's programs for the elderly. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
The Duluth City engineers have an overwhelming library of maps, charting the changes and developments over the past 100 years. But through the $100,000 purchase of an Apollo computer and Ultimap software now used in Minneapolis's Hennepin County, keeping data will never be the same.
Maybe instead of spending days researching different maps that have all the information that we're going to have at one location, it might take a half hour, it might take 10 minutes for us to go through once we have all the data entered into the one central location.
Engineering technicians log actual maps into the computer in a process they call digitizing.
We're kind of going in two, I guess, parallel directions. One is the planning, and the other is the mapping and plan preparation for our street and sewer drawings.
Once information is programmed and stored, the near-perfect scaled maps can be recalled and printed, the final result untouched by human hands. While base maps are being drafted right now, Carlson says everything related to streets, all utilities, sidewalks, and signs will eventually be added. He says the system has tremendous potential to monitor all information in City Hall with the speed and accessibility they've never known. Janet Carvin, Channel 3 News.
The sun didn't shine at today's groundbreaking ceremonies as officials threw lumps of soggy dirt at the site of the paper mill. The cloud of a lawsuit by Gino Palucci to keep some of the land needed for the building hung over the festivities. Yet in spite of delays caused by the Palucci lawsuit, officials say now is a good time to break ground at the site.
The price tag goes up higher if the process is longer, and that's kind of where we're at. But as it relates to the project itself, the project is going to go. And, we're not coming in here and taking people's homes away and building up people's hopes if we're not going to do a project. That was well thought out far in advance of all the other steps. We're going to have a project.
Back at the Duluth Arena, the paper company threw a party for the community, and amidst the log-cutting contests and speeches by dignitaries was a message that a $4 million price tag for the legal fight with the industrialist hasn't killed the paper mill project.
We're confident that the court action will find our case has merits and that the city has all the authority that they've used, and we'll have the project completed on time, and we expect to in late 1987.
On Wednesday, the paper mill matter will come before a Duluth District Court judge, and it could take several rounds of legal battling before it's decided if the city of Duluth can make Palucci sell his land. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
I think it started when I first met Jadira Ravelo and was so inspired by her story and the terrible pain that she had gone through, and I wanted to go to El Salvador and learn what that experience was all about for her.
And Smith captured that experience on videotape. Here in Aravelo's neighborhood, seeing a fellow El Salvadorian hauled away on a stretcher is commonplace. Arevelo went into hiding after a threat was made on her life because of her political views.
It was pretty bad. It's a pretty difficult time for me deciding to leave my family, the community, and to sneak under the darkness of the night like a thief or a criminal.
For Arevelo and many others like her, the only chance for survival is to leave the country. And Smith says we Americans can learn from their experiences, learn that the pain these El Salvadorians are living through are pains we can come to grips with and respond to.
Because I don't think there will ever be peace or justice in Central America until people, both in the United States and in Central America, have a much better understanding of each other, simply as human beings.
Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
As far as shooting this, I don't know.
This lady had a hero.
Well, Merry Christmas. You too.
Chain letters like this one usually promise to take you from rags to riches. One person even claims that in 1 week he made almost $25,000. By mailing, say, a couple of dollars to a specified address, those $2 can be turned into hundreds and even thousands of dollars. So, says the letter.
Chain letters have a pyramiding effect. The people at the top of the pyramid at times stand to make some money in a scheme such as this, but as we get down into the third and fourth levels, the number of people participating in such a chain letter as this are so many that there's just no way that you could get any response back.
Some chain letters are legal, but the ones promising money are illegal. And this chain letter even urges you to make sure you file your profit or loss with your income tax return.
Johnston says if you get a chain letter like this, you should do one of two things with it. You can crumble it up and throw it away, or you can give it to the post office and they'll turn it over to the investigative department.
If somebody sends you something that looks too good to be true, it normally is.
Tonight at 10, we'll see if any other Duluthians are receiving letters like this and if they're answering them. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
It may not be long before the citizens of Coleraine will hear the clatter of hoofbeats. That's if the Racing Commission gives Trent Corporation the nod to build the second parimutuel racetrack. The proposed location along Trout Lake on top of landforms left by the mining industry.
We feel that this project is very unique in its design and concept, and we feel that is an exciting project because of the possibilities that it has for not only this immediate area, but also entire northern Minnesota.
With the potential to employ 1,400 and take in $250 million a year, the existing economic conditions of the range may help Trent in competing with similar proposals by Little Falls and Moorhead.
We have a very distressed area here that is very much in need of a new economic base, and we feel that Trent is that answer. We propose a year-round track enclosed. We would provide racing year-round, all types of racing.
The Trent Corporation will take its proposal to the State Racing Commission late this summer. If approved, it would take about 2 years to convert this Trout Lake site into Trent, Minnesota's second racetrack. In Coleraine, Janet Carvin and Channel 3 News.
It was clear many had their minds made up before they walked into the Pengilly Community Center tonight. Despite the creation of 100 jobs, many oppose the idea of a new plant that would burn 240 tons of waste per day.
I would think that people can stop just about anything that they want to stop, if they want to go through the motions or whatever they have to do. But what you have to understand personally, as a group, the woman over here said, we just don't want it here.
There were many questions for pollution control officials tonight about the odor, effluent, and the content of the stack's emissions.
90% of the SO2 and 99% of the gases such as the acid gas of fluorine and bromine as well as chlorine. So we've got to take all of those out.
Not in my backyard were the sentiments expressed by many area residents tonight. However, officials assured the concerned citizens that the Environmental Protection Agency will monitor the plant and not allow it to operate under anything less than safe conditions. In Pengilly, Janet Carvin, Channel 3 News. More than 100 turned out in Pengilly last night to learn more about the proposal to convert Butler taconite into a hazardous waste incinerator.
I don't just want to know what the president of your corporation is and the number of your post office box. I want to know, are you more than just a post office box down in Rockford?
The Rockford, Illinois company proposing the $30 million project would employ 100 and is headed by Lauren Peripovich. He and Minnesota pollution control representatives fielded a range of questions last night.
They're saying indeed you are going to have some wastewater problem there, and you're saying you are not. And I'd like to know during this time, where are you with that?
Any water that has any chance at all of coming in contact with any chemicals will be collected and burned as a waste in itself. So there will be no waste effluent from this system as it's presently contemplated.
The plant would burn 240 tons of waste per day, including paint, industrial solvents, and soils contaminated with toxic materials. While some were clearly opposed to the idea, others want assurances for their safety, but are examining the potential economic value for the area. The hearings are expected to continue. Janet Carvin, Channel 3 News.
Well, now that's another part. See, these assets happen.
Minnesota's last big bout with the red measles was 2 years ago when 44 young people were infected at the YOU camp near Orr. Last year, a half dozen people in the state caught measles. Minnesota health officials are calling this latest outbreak very serious.
I think based on what we had last year, very little cases of measles, yes, that is constitutes a major outbreak in the state of Minnesota.
Nearly all children in Minnesota schools have been vaccinated. That vaccine is 95% effective, so doctors aren't sure yet what caused the recent outbreak.
It may be just the fact that they weren't immunized or they weren't immunized properly, or it's vaccine failure.
The outbreak may also be related to a severe measles epidemic in Manitoba. 900 cases have been reported there this year. With the tourist season rapidly approaching, we could see some symptoms here.
Oh, I don't think that we're going to be immune from any outbreak. I think, given that vaccine failure of 5%, which is a given, I think sure we might have some children or people who are susceptible in this area.
Anderson warns you to be on the lookout for coughing, runny eyes, a runny nose, a rash, and a high fever. If you or your child has any of these signs, you are urged to see a doctor. Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News. It's an exercise of your senses. A blindfold takes away your sight, as smoke would in a real fire. Gloves cover your hands, deadening your feel. An air mask makes breathing harder as you gasp for more air than you can get. A helmet covers your ears. We were to crawl through an unknown building, searching for victims of a fire. Duluth firefighter Art Delzato led me through, always hugging the left wall to stay oriented with surroundings we couldn't see.
A body or a person you're searching for in a rescue operation would possibly be in the middle of the room. And if I strayed in the middle of the room, I'd get totally disorientated. So by keeping to the wall, I'm orientated, and you behind me are reaching as far into the room as you can with your right arm and right leg feeling for that person.
The gear weighed 60 pounds. It was hot and it was very tiring, but we had to keep moving. In a real fire, you can't stop when you're worn down. The building had many obstacles found in a common fire. It was realistic as could be, missing only extreme heat, smoke, and flames. For me, the most difficult part was shimmying downstairs into a dark crawl space. It became so small we had to take our air tanks off to move. I felt cramped, wanting to see and breathe normally. 20 minutes after we began the exercise, we made it through. Firefighters depend on each other. They never know what lies ahead, but but it's part of the job as they search for victims trapped by fire.
We read what we feel.
Yeah.
I read that there was the floor, although I knew it, but you would also read, you'd feel the joist, you'd feel there's no ceiling, you would walk the strongest point by being on the joists. In a search and rescue operation, in the same principle, while you're searching and rescuing, someone else is taking care of the fire.
Now, communication, obviously you had to talk to me
Absolutely.
all the way through. How difficult is that for the first person in a situation?
Saturday's accident at an outdated but still in use nuclear power plant in the Soviet Union has left many people injured there. Soviet officials say the number is under 100. How the uranium meltdown happened isn't exactly known, but apparently graphite inside the reactor caught on fire and there wasn't a contaminant shell to hold in radioactive materials.
The uranium fuel rods, as they literally get hot enough to melt, start to pool, and the uranium comes closer together, making it even more radioactive. And as it gets more radioactive, it gets hotter. As it gets hotter, it melts more, so we have literally what's called a meltdown. Now, as this system continues to get hot and burns this graphite and any other debris around there, the byproducts are sent out into space. It's like a kind of a continual, in a sense, a cauldron of radioactive products.
UWS has a Geiger counter machine set up to monitor any increase in radioactivity that the jet stream may carry to this area. Professor Daly says we will receive some here in about 1 week, although the levels won't be great enough to be harmful to humans.
And by this time, it will have been distributed through the atmosphere to the extent that it probably has no short-range significance in terms of this area here. It may raise the so-called background count by a detectable amount, but as far as the immediate concern of the people, it's not of any great concern.
The big concern now is the health of the Soviet people in the immediate Kiev area. A dose of radiation can cause bone cancer, as well as afflicting the thyroid gland to the point where it's rendered useless. Brian Ziegler, Channel 3 News.
Experts say that weather fronts will eventually carry radiation from the Soviet accident to the United States, but the levels of radioactivity will diminish with each mile they travel away from their source.
I doubt that we're going to see anything. There might be very minimal increases in our background levels of radiation that would appear over the next several weeks to months, but other than that, I doubt that in this area we'll see anything more.
Bennett says some radiation will reach the Northland, but the amount will not exceed normal levels encountered in everyday circumstances.
Probably less than a 3-4 hour flight at 39,000 feet from coast to coast or something, because the higher you go in the atmosphere, the greater your exposure is to cosmic radiation from the sun.
However, officials at the University of Wisconsin say they will continue to monitor radiation levels to make sure they remain safe. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
American nuclear industry officials are going to great lengths to put a lot of technological distance between U.S. atomic energy plants and the disasters suffered in the Soviet Ukraine.
Our system is different. The precautions that we've taken are different. The whole approach has been different.
Experts are citing what they call serious safety flaws in the Soviet design, specifically the lack of any barriers to prevent radiation from escaping. When the reactor core overheated, the outside air eventually helped to ignite the large block of graphite coolant, which only made matters worse.
So you have the problem compounded by the burning of the graphite as well as the molten fuel, and these would combine to disperse the radioactivity into the air.
The typical U.S. nuclear reactor is water-cooled and airtight. If the core overheats, most of the radiation, experts say, is trapped inside a dome of steel and reinforced concrete, a la 3 Mile Island.
So the releases there were relatively minor, with perhaps 60 or 70% of that core melted inside, or damaged at least. In the Russian instance, no barriers. So once there's damage and the heat is giving rise to that radioactivity, it's in the environment.
Nuclear power advocates concede the Soviet disaster will generate even more negative political fallout for nuclear energy worldwide. But they stress this latest incident by no means sounds the death knell for the nuclear power industry. Mike Strand, WCCO Television News, Minneapolis.
NSP has produced nuclear power at its plant just up the road from Monticello and Big Lake for more than 15 years. In town, the Soviet nuclear disaster is the topic of talk. Tonight, outside the Monty Theater, people were split on the key question: do you worry that it could happen here?
If I was worried about the Monticello plant, I would have moved away a long time ago.
Yeah, it makes you think, because then we had a tornado on Wednesday night, and it seemed like that's the first thing we thought of. It's like the nuclear plant over here because the sirens went off and stuff.
From what I understand, the safety precautions in Russia aren't what they are out here. They don't have the barriers set up that we have out here in our plant.
We've gotten the evacuation procedures, and
Is that going to do you any good?
probably not, but it gives you a little peace of mind in thinking that, yeah, okay.
At the Monticello Mall, several people noted that NSP pumps millions of dollars into the economy through jobs and taxes. Still, news of the Chernobyl deaths causes alarm.
It never bothered me before, but now it's like I'm glad I don't work there. But yet, if something happened, I know I'll be wiped out or something.
Most people here don't spend a lot of time fearing the unknown, thinking the unthinkable. And yet everyone has questions and concerns about safety. And at times like these, those concerns get pushed a little closer to the forefront. I'm Mike Walter, WCCO Television News, Monticello.
All right, give me some cover.
The Vietnam War sparked a liberal fire on many high school and college campuses during the 1960s and 70s. The length of that war and the seemingly futile efforts at winning a conflict halfway around the world fanned the flames. The 60s motto was, "Make love, not war." Now it appears that the times, they are a-changing.
But at the junior level, there is no commitment.
Today in Chisholm, high school students talked with representatives of an ROTC unit from the Twin Cities about setting up their own unit. ROTC stands for Army Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps.
It gives me a chance to make something out of, my life, because, coming from the Iron Range, you don't have much of a chance to do much. So, and the ROTC is going to give me a chance to go out and prove that I can do something.
Sounds interesting, opportunities and stuff like that. I kind of regret that, I'm going to be a senior next year, only be 1 year in it.
Rather than stressing the military aspect of the ROTC, one Chisholm school official stresses the educational advantages.
The big one in our mind are scholarships and the ability to make nominations to the academy. But even more so than that, it teaches our kids things like responsibility, poise and self-confidence, the ability to express themselves verbally, and strong citizenship.
Initial funding for the Chisholm chapter of the ROTC will be furnished by the Army and grants. Any student in grades 8 through 11 in the Chisholm area is welcome to join by contacting the high school.
It's very, very self-explanatory.
Ambassadors represented 95 countries. Each of the more than 250 students was assigned a country to study.
It gives them a broader perspective on international issues and issues that affect the world community rather than just the communities that they live in. It gives them an opportunity to look at issues more as world citizens and an opportunity to study a specific country for an extended period of time and role play that country.
Nolan says role-playing helps the student strengthen opinions about world issues and at the same time helps the student to empathize with people of other countries. And perhaps the most interesting role played was that of the Libyan ambassador. Both the Libyan and American ambassadors disputed the U.S.'s recent attack on Libya.
We just defend Libya as any Eastern propagandist would, saying that all attacks by the United States are terrorist actions, and that all Libyan attacks are justified responses to those actions.
As far as the United States' stance on Libya, we do support the bombing, of course, obviously. And as President Reagan said in his speech before, immediately after the bombing, he said, we had to do it, and if called to do again, we will do that again. So it's something that we have taken a firm stance on, and we will continue to.
Besides the Libyan situation, the students also talked about world hunger. Tonight at 10, we'll talk with an ambassador from an underdeveloped country on what's being done to address that issue. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
Before I was elected Secretary-Treasurer, I've been chair now for several years, and you will take that to task and do good. I'm sure that it will be a very successful operation. Welcome aboard, and I will now turn.
Here. Hayden, here. Martineau.
Here.
Daniel.
Here.
Peacock.
Here.
Here.
He has been nominated but has not been confirmed by the City Council. I think, Madam Chairman, the first order of business would be a vote on the bylaws have been previously handed out as legal counsel to this.
Our country lied to us about how much.
The theme of his speech was supposed to be Law Day, but the former federal justice touched on topics ranging from the attack on Libya, which he opposes, to U.S. involvement in Central America, which he also opposes. He also talked about things he supports, like the P9 strike at the Hormel plant in Austin. Lord is now representing the striking workers in court, free of charge.
There's never been a group of people that I know of that have been more maligned and their motives and actions more misrepresented than the people at Hormel. And I think that's going to turn around, and I'm going to lend whatever credibility I have, if I have any, to those people whose cause is righteous.
Lord says the P9 union has been unfairly denied profit-sharing monies by the Hormel company, in addition to proper representation by the National Meat Packers Union. But he plans on changing that.
Oh, I got my jollies out of it. I really, I don't get any money, but I got some satisfaction in knowing that while I'm here on this earth, I am a person who loves his neighbor. I feel as though we have some obligation to be our brother's keeper. Wherever people are oppressed, I want to help them.
Lord didn't ask anyone to agree with his points of view today. He only hoped that he would have as many friends when he left as he had when he came. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
These homes at the Pleasant View Trailer Park are moving. Owners say it's because the land they're resting on is saturated with water and there is no proper drainage system.
3 years ago, we had, the situation was bad and we went public with it. The company was ordered by the state to do some different things. They did all the cosmetic things in here. and not the drainage as they were ordered by the state. And the result is we have 6 mobile homes slipping.
The manager of the park says movement occurs when people don't re-level their homes. He apparently re-leveled his home 3 years ago and has had no trouble with it, but the homes on either side of his have slipped drastically. This mobile home is the worst off. It has been slowly moving for about a year. As you can see, it has now slipped about a foot. In fact, it has slipped so far, the sewer pipe has separated. The owner of this home says she's been trying to re-level her home for 2 years, but can't because her home keeps shifting. Officials from Inland Realty in Edina, the company that owns the park, say the homes may be shifting because their foundations were not laid properly. They say if you buy a home that's not set up properly, that's your problem, not theirs. They do admit there is a problem with drainage, but say they simply don't have the money to fix it. The company is apparently not making any money on the park. In fact, rent hasn't been raised in 3 years. So it looks as if repairs won't get done until residents are willing to pay for it themselves. Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News. DNR officials say members of the Lac du Flambeau tribe overfished 2 Minocqua lakes by about 600 fish. And that, says a DNR spokesman, is a sign of irresponsibility and could jeopardize future spearfishing rights for that tribe.
Obviously, we are not going to agree to another agreement that does not have tighter provisions than the one we're currently operating under. This simply cannot be allowed to continue, and the next agreement, if there is another agreement, will have a provision to preclude that.
Jacobson says for reproduction purposes, it's important tribal members stay within the DNR's quota. Members of the St. Croix tribe near Spooner wouldn't comment on the Lac du Flambeau's overfishing, but they did say perhaps spearfishing rules should be re-evaluated.
I think that we have to sit down with all of the tribes involved and, as has happened in the past, talk about the situation.
Mm-hmm. I think that we would probably have to reassess the success of this spearing season and take it back to the table and look at what some of the deficiencies that may have been omitted during our traditional spearing season.
Jacobson says when it comes time to set regulations for next year's spearfishing season, a couple changes will have to be made. For one, each lake will be monitored even more closely by DNR officials. And secondly, there will be a size restriction on muskie. And he says perhaps with these changes, spearfishing seasons to come will be peaceful ones. In northern Wisconsin, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
Mrs. Sadat's speech was supposed to be open to the public and news crews, but restrictions placed on us by her agents limited what we could and could not show you. Minutes before the speech, we were told by Girl Scout leaders we couldn't tape it.
When Mrs. Sadat sent her contract to us, that was one of the stipulations in the contract. And we agreed to that contract, and we signed that contract, and we felt we were obligated to honor that.
Mm-hmm. Was there a reason stated in the contract why we couldn't?
No, there was no reason stated at all. So we didn't even question it. We wanted her badly enough to come to be a role model for our girls that we were willing to go along with that. Mm-hmm. So to hear it, you had to be here.
Background information and press releases we received led us to believe we could tape the speech, and the only provision in those releases was that flashbulbs weren't to be used. The speech didn't appear to be controversial. Mrs. Sadat spoke mainly of Girl Scouts interrelations. We were, however, permitted to tape a question and answer session that followed the speech, but even that was screened. Mrs. Sadat was given the questions at 9 this morning so she could prepare answers. Mrs. Sadat would give no interviews during her visit here and held no press conferences. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
Armco is planning a 5-year, $500 million renovation of its East Coast steel plants. But to make the plan work, Armco needs to cut taconite costs by $33 per ton. Officials say Reserve Mining Company has already begun doing that.
Today, their costs are less than they were in the past. This puts them in a better competitive position to survive. Also achieves part of the goal we're looking for in reduced iron ore cost.
Deal says it's hard for people in Babbitt and Silver Bay to understand the March layoffs were necessary, but he says they were in the best interest of Reserve to keep Reserve competitive.
Reserve has responded in the past to the challenge of reducing their cost very well. We've been very happy with that. That's not to say that we're satisfied with the cost of today. We still need to get further cost reductions. But Reserve is in a much better competitive position today because their costs have been lowered.
Deal is confident no union concessions will be necessary to make the Armco plan work, and he says there should be few Iron Range layoffs in the future. In the end, the massive overhaul of its steel plants should make Armco competitive in the world steel market, and that means more Iron Rangers can keep their jobs. In Babbitt, Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
This camp at Lake Leander near Cook is home for these firefighters all week. They're learning the basics of fighting forest fires.
This is a mock training camp for just like a real fire. And the purpose of the training is to bring about 7 different agencies within Minnesota together so that we can share expertise and share equipment and people.
The learning starts here in a classroom setting inside the tent. In this class, firefighters are learning the basics of getting their water by pumping it from lakes. Their knowledge gained is then applied in the field. The camp is equipped with a radio communications tent, a medical unit, and of course the necessities, a mess tent and tents to sleep in.
But it's totally different for them to actually experience it. Now they're getting a taste of both. They're getting the training with the reality of camp life added in.
That reality is about 15,000 forest fires a year, some of them burning as long as 3 weeks. And at the end of this week, these Minnesota trainees will be prepared to fight that type of fire. At Lake Leander, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News. According to the Northwood School District, this library is too small. They want to borrow $200,000 from the state to help build a larger one. But some residents in nearby Gordon don't like that idea.
No, I'm not against libraries. I believe our children ought to have improved library facilities at the Northwood School District. But the size of the proposed library, which was 90 feet by 66 feet, we consider it too large.
The 6,000 square foot size is exactly the size that's recommended for our size school from the Department of Public Instruction. It's not larger than what's recommended.
Size is one thing, but the citizens in Gordon are also angry the issue is being voted on so soon after its defeat. And the voting session will be held at 7 o'clock in the evening, and some Gordon residents say that's an attempt to keep some of the voters from the polls. They say even if they do make it to the meeting, their chances of defeating it again may be slim. But the superintendent of the Northwood School District says that won't be the case. In fact, he says this special meeting will give voters a chance to voice their opinions before casting votes.
This is very traditional and right with the law. Special district meetings are normally held at 7 or 8 in the evening, where the voters come at one place at one time, sit in the chairs, and hear both sides of an issue and then vote.
Matthias says the library is the school board's #1 priority, and if it's defeated again, the issue will be reintroduced at their annual meeting in July. In Minong, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.